Picture this. You've just finished your big piano competition, and as you walk down the stage, you can hear the excited cheering and grand applause. You see the smiling faces of your parents in the crowd, but you seem tuned out of it. The reason? Because your mind is fixated on that one mistake you've made. That one mistake you've made in measure 58. You say to yourself, if only you hadn't made that mistake in 58, then everything would have been perfect. You practiced so many times during rehearsal, and yet when it came to the big day, you messed it up. All the thoughts come in like an avalanche of negative, self-deprecating thoughts, consuming your mind space and leaving no room for you to even acknowledge any of the successes that you've made. You say, everything sucks and you are a failure. Sound familiar? We tend to all hold on to all of the negative thoughts and negative beliefs that we have about ourselves. The piece that you've played is composed of a total of 467 measures, and yet your mind has decided to disqualify the other 466 measures that you've played beautifully and focus on measure 58, that one measure out of the total 467 that you made a mistake on. All it took was one mistake out of the whole piece to declare yourself as a failure. In life, we all make mistakes, but sometimes it only takes one mistake to trap us in a negative thought spiral, which begs the question, how do we unravel ourselves from the spiral? Let's go back to our scenario, but this time I want you to imagine that it was your friend on that stage. Picture that your friend had just finished their piano competition and comes to you looking distressed because they had made that one mistake in the piece. Upon first instinct, would you lash out at them and tell them how stupid and careless they are to have had made that mistake? Would you tell them if only they hadn't made that mistake, then everything would have went well? I'm sure that most of you would not do that. Our first instinct when we see our loved ones in pain is to comfort them. So then why do we, in times of perceived failure, immediately jump to degrading ourselves when our reaction to others is different? Why is it so easy for us to fixate and dwell on the negative thoughts and beliefs that we have about ourselves? This negativity bias stems back to early human history. Back when our ancestors were alive, being more aware of the negative threats around us was truly a matter of life or death. Those who were more attuned to danger and who were more alert about the negative threats in their environment were more likely to survive. The negativity bias has allowed them a survival advantage, and since then, this evolutionary survival strategy has been passed down to us. This evolutionary history of the negativity bias explains why it's so easy for us to become fixated on negative thoughts and trap ourselves in a negative thought spiral. The negativity bias has helped us a lot in our childhood. Negative self-talk is a learned skill that stems back to our childhood experiences with our caregivers and our peers. As children, we're taught to internalize the interactions we have with others. For example, if your parents criticize you for not doing something well enough, then you take it in and criticize yourself so that next time your parents won't have to be there to criticize you. We criticize ourselves so that we can improve and so that we won't have to receive the negative feedback from our environment. We also criticize ourselves so that next time we do receive that negative feedback, it will be less painful because we've already put ourselves down. As children, we need this nurturing environment from our caregivers and our peers. And instead of confronting the environment when we receive negative feedback from it, we instead internalize that negative feedback, criticize ourselves so that we can change to adapt to the environment and continue living in the environment that we need to survive. Negative self-talk and this negativity bias has allowed us to continue living in the environment that we needed. But now the constant fixation on negative self-talk and the vicious cycle of negative thinking no longer serves us. This childhood skill of negative self-talk no longer helps us. So what can we do about it? The answer comes to self-compassion. Self-compassion is the act of giving yourself compassion in times of perceived failure, inadequacy, and general suffering. Now, this word might spark a bit of discomfort. You might be wondering, why should we give ourselves self-compassion? And additionally, it feels a little uncomfortable to think about it because it's different when you give yourself compassion versus when you give it to others. Unfortunately, this discomfort stems from our societal's negative beliefs about self-compassion. Society has led us to believe that self-compassion will make us lazy, will make us lose ourselves, and make us become the person that we don't want to be. On the contrary, we feel like we need self-criticism so that we can become the person we want to be, and so that we will be kept in check. But let me ask you this question. If self-criticism really helped us, then shouldn't we all have already become the person we have always aspired to be? Does the constant fixation on self-criticism and the negative thought spiral really serve us? The first step to cultivating self-compassion is to really acknowledge that we are being self-critical. Oftentimes, there is a lack of awareness that we are being self-critical, and this keeps us trapped in the vicious cycle of negative self-talk. After you have acknowledged that you are being self-critical, then can you cultivate self-compassion. The second step is to acknowledge or to notice all of your thoughts in a non-judgmental way. You can ask yourself these questions. How am I feeling? Name the emotion that comes up. Is this thought helpful? Is this thought true? Is this thought important? And does this thought serve me? Often, when we have a self-critical thought, they're often distorted. And so when we ask ourselves these questions, we can distance ourselves from it so that we don't identify with our negative thoughts. After you're more mindful about your thoughts, then we can practice thought replacement or challenging your negative thoughts. This might seem like a daunting task, and it will definitely be hard, but like negative self-talk, self-compassion can become a learned skill over time with practice. So let's revisit the negative thoughts that you had after your piano competition. The dialogue may look a little like this. Your initial thought is you could have done better. And you can say, I did my best today, to reassure yourself that you did do your best. You practiced so many times before, and I will continue to improve. So this is kind of like the inner dialogue that you can have. Why do you keep messing up can be replaced with mistakes are part of the process. It could have been perfect can be replaced with it's okay that it was not perfect. You ruined it when it mattered can be I am doing my best. How can you make a mistake can be replaced with mistakes are part of the process. Why did you make that mistake can be replaced with it's okay that I made that mistake. And finally, you are a failure can be replaced with I made a mistake and that is okay. I am still proud of myself. You can still acknowledge these negative thoughts, but instead of allowing them to consume you, you can practice self-compassion to cultivate growth. You can befriend yourself and allow yourself to receive the negative and receive the self-compassion that you are trying to give yourself.